Went on a shamanic journey recently, so to speak, at least. It acted that way. But it was a little bit of an initiation. I put a short up of a Three Eagles Calling, and got into a hardware store, upgraded my Caduceus, however you say that word, or wand, or scepter, or Vajra Thunderbolt. But anyway, kind of looks like a plunger. I'm a plumber. I feel a little bit like Mario, but it's from Thailand, and I resonate a bit with Vishnu. So anyway, a little bit about that. Let's roll some I-ming. Two tails, one head, Young Yang. Sorry, I'm a little shaky energy right now. Trying to work on that. Three tails, Old Yin. Root chakra, heart, Three tails, Old Yin. We have just a short passage to read. Two passages at the beginning. Don't have a lot of time with this reading, so hopefully we don't get two more changing lines. All right. Oh yeah, Within a Brook. Big shout out to Within a Brook. Oh. This is the alder that just popped up. Associated with Neptune. Okay, so that's significant. She went to a sweat lodge and had some vision quests and met Great Spirit. And she had the sensation that after my initiation that I could pick a name or ask my spirit guides for a name. And the first name that came to mind is the same name that Ashley thought of, which was Papa Bear. So I feel very honored Within a Brook. Thank you. I love you. I love what you're doing. Two heads, one tail. Young Yin. Third eye, root, sword of solar lord plexus. Write that down. Yeah. 2 heads, 1 tail, Young Yin. Interesting. Heart chakra. 3 tails, Old Yin. The passages we'll be reading, trying to flow as much as possible. So this is just stuff that came in today. So no claims again. They both happen to be from Jesus, but one of them is quoting Psalms, I believe. I have the net translation. Just so you know, I'm not picking any particular religion by quoting out of various scriptures of various kinds. Just find things that seem to be pertinent at the time. The net translation, they do a really good job, in my opinion, of translating pretty precisely and yet understandably. Let's see here. The Jewish leaders picked up rocks again to stone him to death. John 10:31 through 39. Jesus said to them, "I have shown you many good deeds from the Father. For which one of them are you going to stone me?" The Jewish leaders replied, "We're not going to stone you for a good deed, but for blasphemy, because you, a man, are claiming to be God." Jesus answered, "Is it not written in your law, 'I said you are gods'? If those people to whom the word of God came were called gods, and the scripture cannot be broken, Do you say about the one whom the Father set apart and sent into the world, you are blaspheming because I said, I am the Son of God? If I do not perform the deeds of my Father, do not believe me. But if I do them, even if you do not believe me, believe the deeds, so that you may come to know and understand that I am in the Father and the Father is in me. Then they attempted again to seize him, but he escaped their clutches. And this next one I find particularly pertinent. Where are we at here? Here we go. Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Isn't there more to life than food, and more to the body than clothing? Look at the birds in the sky. They do not sow or reap or gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Aren't you more valuable than they are? And which of you by worrying can add even 1 hour to his life? Why do you worry about clothing? Think about how the flowers of the field grow. They do not work or spin, yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all his glory was clothed like one of these. And if this is how God clothes the wild grass, which is here today and tomorrow is tossed into the fire to heat the oven, won't he clothe you even more, you people of little faith? So then don't worry, saying, what will we eat, or what will we drink, or what will we wear? For the unconverted pursue these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But above all, pursue his kingdom and righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. So then, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Today has enough trouble of its own. Okay, I-ming time. Our bottom trigram will be read as solid, broken, broken. Our changing lines are 2 and 3, so this will eventually transform for a supporting hexagram to solid, solid, solid. But for now, solid, broken, broken is the trigram. Zen, thunder. Thunder is shock, upheaval, and the spark of the new. In old Chinese belief, thunder slept in the earth over winter and erupted from it in spring, awakening living things into new growth. Thunder is our basic drive for renewal. He inspires initiative and decisive action. He is the stimulus that sets things in motion. He is the eldest son of the trigram family, the first connection of heaven, potential, with earth, realization. Yang makes itself known here, emerging into the field and beginning to grow. Thunder belongs to the east and to spring. And our top trigram, or outer trigram of our primary hexagram, will be read as broken, 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 or open, 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 which is Kun, earth. Kun is earth, open to receive and support what comes to her, providing for its full development. She makes inspiration manifest, gives it form, and sustains its growth. Earth is available to be used, ready to lend her strength to the work without limit. She protects and accepts all things in their totality, present and potential, in an unconditional embrace. Earth is mother, found in the southwest and the harvest time of late summer and early autumn. I don't know if I showed the last one, but I'll show this one. Earth, and then we had Zen, thunder. There we go. And then next, since our bottom lines are all going to be solid, that gives us Qian, heaven. Apologies for any mispronunciations. Honestly don't know. Qian is superhuman cosmic law. Enduring, he determines the nature and development of all things, from the movement of the stars to the cycle of the seasons, to causing each individual seed to grow into its own kind of plant. Heaven is creativity in its pure form, the force that drives change and what endures within it. He confronts us with truth and what it demands, both as the absolute law of nature and as the challenge of individual calling, experienced as an inner law. He is both the awareness of what to do and how to be, and also the power to act on it. Heaven is Father, found in the northwest, the realm between autumn and winter, when the buds set and seeds fall to earth. That is an auspicious hexagram, I'll have you know. Father below mother. Anywho's, let's translate these. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. So, we had Kun, earth above, Zen, thunders. Hexagram 24. And then we will have Kun, earth above, Qian, heaven, which is hexagram 11. All right. We're going to be taking our definitions from I-ming's Taoist I Ching. He was a Taoist adept in 1796 and wrote this then. So many wands up here on the table. It's hard to put my elbows down. There you go. Return. Hexagram 24. Return of consciousness of reality. Activity obeying the mind. And hexagram 11, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context, an influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Hexagram 11 is tranquility, harmony of strength and flexibility. Could use a bit of that. Told you it was auspicious. Our first I Ching commentary we'll be reading from is Hilary Barrett's Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future. I'd recommend this to anyone thinking about getting into the I Ching. Very helpful and also super profound often. So yeah, we're doing 24 and then 11. Also, before we get started, when we come to the I Ching to consult the Oracle, and we bring a question forward, that question is always going to have the general context of how can I act in creative relation with the spirits or forces shaping this moment of time. And the way we understand the answer to that is by understanding how the parts of the reading work together. The key to understanding a reading is to know your way around its main components, how they fit together, and the different roles they play. If your reading includes changing lines, then you will need to understand primary hexagram, relating hexagram, and changing lines together. The two hexagrams in conversation with one another map out your whole answer. The primary hexagram shows you quite directly what your answer involves. The relating hexagram generally describes what the answer is about for you. It sets the primary hexagram in a broader context, an influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. If the two hexagrams map out a landscape for you, then the changing lines stick a pin in that map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They are the immediate answer to your question. As the most specific, focused part of a reading, their message always takes precedence over all other elements. For example, the primary hexagram might describe a reassuringly secure situation, but a changing line could warn how insecure your position is within it. Might be a helpful screenshot. So, hexagram 24, our primary hexagram. Returning. Key questions. What is just beginning to germinate? How can you follow your sense of direction more closely? Where might the path lead now? Returning, creating success. Going out, coming in, without anxiety. Partners come, not a mistake. Turning around and returning on your path, the seventh day comes, you return. Fruitful to have a direction to go. This lady looks like she's doing Tai Chi. Something. Or just turning around. Your journey leads you out and home again. A hobbit's tale. Through the turning points on your way, vigor and authenticity return to the still moments of those turning points. Life regenerates from the roots and light returns. By walking constantly to and from your source, you participate in a two-way flow of creation. You go out and rediscover your own way. You return through an open door to your home and relationships. This is a living motion, like breathing, that revitalizes and restores. Relaxed and spacious, it allows time for the path's natural meanderings, never creating resistance. Since you are in motion, helpers of all kinds come, traveling companions who walk alongside you for a while. If someone is meant to be with you, you will never need to leave your path to chase after them. Just as any road can be traveled in two directions, your path also leads both out and back again. And so in the fullness of time and following a natural progression, there comes a moment to turn around. Through all this going and coming and starting afresh, it is good to have an overarching direction and purpose to guide you. The quality of returning is alive, growing, and dynamic. A good time to rediscover your own deepest intent and its harmony with the Tao. Image, thunder dwelling in the center of the earth, returning. The ancient kings closed the borders at winter solstice. Itinerant merchants did not travel. The prince did not tour the regions. In winter, nothing moves or grows. Thunder dwells quietly at the center of the earth. When spring comes, it will surge up and rouse everything to new life. But at present, it is barely beginning to stir. Winter solstice, darkest moment of the year, is when light just begins to return. The ancient kings cared for their people as the earth covers a dormant seed. They contained people's impulse to rush out and resume business as usual so that the energy for growth would not be squandered in the depths of winter. This is the turning point on your path. A moment to be still and turn inward to listen for little glimmerings and inklings of awareness, to nurture the seeds of a personal sense of direction. Sequence. Returning follows from Hexagram 23, stripping away. Things cannot be completely used up. Stripping away comes to an end on the outside, and there is turnaround on the inside, and so returning follows. After the last firm line leaves the sixth place of Hexagram 23, it returns in the first place of Hexagram 24 on the inside. Things move in cycles. Whenever old growth is stripped away, it is making space for new shoots. And then Hexagram 11, putting our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship with it all. And coincidentally, she calls it flow. Key questions. How will you work with this extraordinary potential? How can you channel the flow of energy to create harmony? Oracle. Flow. Small goes, great comes. Good fortune. Creating success. Flow is a sign of the free and full expression of tremendous creative energy. It is the name of China's most sacred mountain, Tai, which is imbued with spiritual power. The king would make great offerings at its summit to establish a flourishing, peaceful relationship with heaven. This is a time to create harmony with the greater flow, letting its energy pour into creative manifestation as a river flows down into a fertile valley. Pettiness is swept away downstream, and the way opens up for free communication. Great things become possible. The true scale of things is revealed, dwarfing your smaller concerns. You sense the powers that surge through your life and know how far beyond your control they are. Yet you can enter into true relationship with them and participate in flow. Image. Heaven and earth communicate. Flow. The prince enriches and completes the way of heaven and earth, upholds and assists the order of heaven and earth to support and protect the people. Creative force flows through the earth. Potential joins with the space for growth. Everything is possible. The prince, blessed with flow, wholly invests himself in bringing it to fruition in the human realm. He weaves the powers of inspiration and realization together into a synergistic context for creative work. To bring out its full potential, he will work actively to bring all people, energies, and areas of life into harmony inside its embrace. Sequence. Flow follows from the hexagram 10, treading and also flow, and then there is peace, and so flows follows. Flow follows. Flow means flowing together. Treading behind the tiger, you learn to respond, dance, and move skillfully with greater powers. With flow, you come into close relationship with them. To be tranquil with such potent energy rather than engulfed by it, you will need to know how to tread. Pair. Flow is paired and contrasted with hexagram 12, blocked. Blocked and flow are of opposite kind. In flow, heaven and earth connect. In blocked, they separate. Flow communicates, blocked closes the channel. Flow makes everything possible. Blocked means nothing worthwhile can be achieved. We will now read the changing lines to our primary hexagram 24. They put a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They take precedence over all other elements. They may not completely agree with one another, and if that's the case, we're to just see what that could mean in our own lives. Changing lines are 2 and 3. Each has its own general context. Line 2 has the general context of the heart's perception, the emotional center, where you make and feel connections. And line 3 has the general context of an emerging identity, facing a transition, with fear or desire, resolution or indecision. Changing line 2 of hexagram 24, what she calls returning. Line 2, rest and return, good fortune. You don't need to make anything happen now. You can take time to breathe and bring your energy back to your roots. Nothing will be lost, and you will recover a sense of your own strength and autonomy. Line 3. Returning. Repeated returning, danger, no mistake. The road home is not a smooth one. There are constant distractions, interruptions, and setbacks so that you never quite gather enough momentum for steady progress. Yet, you keep on coming back, covering the same ground and gravitating towards the same place. The danger here lies less in the traveling to and fro than in the deep-seated anxieties this can awaken. When you see meaning only in the setbacks, overlooking the significance of your constant returning, it's easy to feel discouraged and to the point of exhaustion. You concede so much power to things that turn you back that you risk losing your own bearings. Yet the repeated returning is not a mistake. You are returning to your right place, and you may find that with each recommitment, you are gaining in skill and insight. James Dekorne next. He has synthesized several I-ming commentaries all together in one convenient place, which I've left links to in the description box below. So if you want to take a look at that, you can see more than what I'll be reading, because I won't be reading everything he adds, just the things that stand out to me. Hexagram 24, return. Other titles might be the turning point, the symbol of returning, revival, recovery, to repeat, renewal, restore, return to the way, cyclic repetition. A quote from D.F. Hook, return to virtue or happier conditions. Just a little bit more about James Dekorne. He is a practitioner of the Tao himself. He's put several different quotes in here throughout from various sources such as the Kabbalah that are really, really enlightening. And on top of that, he gives editor's notes at the very end that are often some of the most profound parts of the readings. Leg, progress and freedom of action are found in return. Goings and comings are unimpeded, and friends approach without error. Return to repeat the proper course. 7 days returns the cycle to its beginning. There is advantage in choosing one's path. Wilhelm/Baines, return, success. Going out and coming in without error. Friends come without blame. To and fro goes the way. On the 7th day comes return. It furthers one to have somewhere to go. Blowfold, return, success. All going forth and coming in is free from harm. For it is only when the whole series is completed that we can understand the reasons for many things, death, winter, and so on, which at the time seemed unproductive, negative, or positively evil. Friends arrive and no error is involved. They return whence they came, spending 7 days in all upon their coming and returning. It is favorable to have in view some goal or destination. Lu, 444 is the time. Lu, return, success. One goes out and comes back in without harm. Friends arrive without blame. Going to and fro is the way. Returning on the 7th day, it benefits one to go anywhere. Reminds me of a spiral staircase. Return or revival signifies a bad time becoming better. Anyone receiving this hexagram should prepare for a great opportunity. Ritsima/Karcher, returning, growing, issuing forth, entering, without affliction, partnering, coming, without fault, reversing, returning one's Tao. the seventh day coming, returning, harvesting, possessing, directed, going. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of something that is re-emerging. It emphasizes that going back to the starting point in order to begin anew is the adequate way to handle it. To be in accord with the times, you are told to return. The image, leg, thunder in the middle of the earth, the image of return. Thus the ancient kings closed the passes on the day of winter solstice to prevent travelers from pursuing their journeys and princes from inspecting their states. Blowfold. This hexagram symbolizes thunder in the bowels of the earth. The component trigrams in this position suggest thunder coming from under the earth, but the trigram of thunder also means to sprout or quicken. It is this concept of a quickening within the earth that makes this hexagram generally favorable. The ancient rulers closed the passes during the solstices. The solstices were times for solemn sacrifice. It has always been the practice in China for people to return to their homes for the celebration of the great yearly festivals. Returning in this sense is highly auspicious. And the merchants were unable to travel. Even the rulers abstained from touring their territories at those times. Ritsama/Karcher, thunder located in Earth center, returning. The earlier kings used culminating sun to bar the passages. Bargaining sojourners used culminating sun not to move. The crown prince used culminating sun not to inspect on all sides. Commentary. Confucius/Leg. Return shows the coming back of the dynamic principle. His actions show movement directed in accordance with the natural order. Such is the movement of the heavenly cycle. The dynamic lines are growing and increasing. Do we not see in return the mind of heaven and earth? Leg. Return symbolizes the idea of coming back or over again. The previous hexagram showed the ascendancy of inferior forces when all that is good in nature or society yields before what is bad. But change is eternal, and here we see the beginnings of recovery from the former situation. Return is associated with the time of the winter solstice when the sun begins its journey back towards summer. In harmony with these cycles in nature are the cycles in human affairs. The dynamic bottom line is the first line of the trigram of movement, and the upper trigram is that of docility. The dynamic returning line will meet with no resistance, and all the magnetic lines above it will be transformed into allies. The bright quality will be developed brighter and brighter from day to day and month to month. In 7 days brings return refers to the idea of a new cycle commencing when each of the 6 lines of a hexagram has changed. The 7th line, or 7th day, begins a new cycle just as Sunday begins a new week. Thunder in the midst of the earth is thunder shut up and silent, just able to make its presence felt. So it is with the first stirrings of life after the winter solstice and the first returning steps of the wanderer to virtue. As the spring of life has to be nurtured in quietness, so also the purpose of goodness. Wilhelm. The hexagram of return applied to character formation contains various suggestions. The light principle returns. Thus, the hexagram counsels turning away from the confusion of external things, turning back to one's inner light. There, in the depths of the soul, one sees the divine, the one. It is indeed only germinal, no more than a beginning, a potentiality, but as such clearly to be distinguished from all other objects. To know this one means to know oneself in relation to the cosmic forces. For this one is the ascending force of life in nature and in man. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. The work is recycled, perfected, and refined over and over again. The superior man pauses before he begins anew. The mention of 7 days in the judgment and the winter solstice in the image tells us that the hexagram of return deals with cyclic progression. Quote from Max Kaltenmark in Lao Tzu and Taoism, which is a great book, by the way. In the I Ching, the hexagram Fu, signifying the return, 1 yang line beneath 5 yin lines, is the symbol of the rebirth of the yang. At the winter solstice, the yang seems to have disappeared, whereas the yin is at its full. But this is the moment when the yang is reborn and begins its return. Symmetrically, at the summer solstice, the yang is at the apogee of its power while the yin prepares to return. The alternation of the yin and yang is a going away and a coming back. 7 days is 1/4 of a lunar cycle and the module upon which a week is based. The Sabbath day is the 7th day and a day of rest in the Hebrew tradition as was also the day of the new moon. I grew up a Seventh-day Adventist, which they held the Sabbath day to be holy. They worshipped on that day. The closing of the passes in the image is another expression of the idea of resting at the beginning of a new cycle. To refrain from activity at these times was a sacrifice and a spiritual obligation. The concept behind it is the acknowledgement of one's source, a review of the past cycle, and a meditation upon the new cycle just beginning. Psychologically interpreted, forces in the unconscious psyche demand a pause before their dance can resume. A quote from Gershom Scholem in Kabbalah. A special atmosphere of solemn celebration surrounded the Sabbath, which was thoroughly pervaded with Kabbalistic ideas about man's role in the unification of the upper worlds. Although the Chinese observed no Sabbath that I am aware of, the idea of a rest at the commencement of a cycle is clearly intended in this hexagram. In terms of the work, one eventually becomes aware of cycles and rest periods, even if one never noticed them previously. When one learns how to synchronize conscious awareness with these inner rhythms, the tempo of the work begins to accelerate. There is advantage in choosing one's path as rendered by Wilhelm as it furthers one to have somewhere to go. The idea is that when you are consciously on a path, the cycles begin to work in your favor. Instead of a monotonous round of inconclusive and random events, one's life takes on structure and purpose, and inner progress becomes discernible. A quote from Max Kaltenmark in Lao Tzu in Taoism, conforming to the rhythm of the universe is the prerequisite of wisdom in all Chinese thinking. But the Taoist mystic has greater ambitions than his ordinary compatriots. The question for him is not merely of adapting his ritual and hygienic observances to the alternation of the seasons. He intends to escape from the determinism of life and death by transcending it. This is what enables him to attain inner emptiness. He does not merely witness the return of all creatures to their origin, he precedes them to that origin. Every line, die before you die, right? Every line of this hexagram refers to returning to the proper path. So the hexagram can imply that perhaps you have strayed from the work to one degree or another. Without changing lines, it can mean to rest at the beginning of a cycle or to get back on course. Reattune yourself with the current phase of the work. Quote from Black Elk, "You've noticed that everything an Indian does is in a circle. and that is because the power of the world always works in circles, and everything tries to be round. In the old days, when we were a strong and happy people, all our power came to us from the sacred hoop of the nation. And so long as the hoop was unbroken, the people flourished." Going to our supporting hexagram 11, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 11, harmony. It kind of looks kind of cool with the things like pillars. You guys should really check out his site. I'm telling you. Other titles: peace, the symbol of successfulness, prospering, pervading, greatness, tranquility, prosperity, conjunction, major synthesis, hieros gamos, holy marriage. A quote from D.F. Hook, yang supporting yin and going to meet each other, good prospects for a marriage or partnership. Judgment, leg, harmony shows the inferior departed and the great arrived. There will be good fortune with progress and success. Wilhelm/Baines, peace. The small departs, the great approaches, good fortune, success. Blofeld, peace, the mean decline. the great and good approach, good fortune and success. In the following hexagram, divorcement, where the trigrams symbolize heaven and earth in what would appear to be their normal positions, that arrangement is held to be disastrous. Whereas here, where they seem to be upside down with heaven beneath earth, everything is propitious. It's like the hangman being flipped upside down. This may be because heaven above earth is held to imply that the two are existing separately without the intercourse, which is the root of all growth. Whereas here, their intercourse is absolute, that heaven is actually supporting earth. Whereas here, their intercourse is so absolute that heaven is actually supporting earth. What a great sentence. Lu, peace. The small is departing, the great is arriving. Good fortune, success. One of my lights just went out. Apologies. Like the campfire. Ritsama/Karcher, pervading. The small going, the great coming, significance growing. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of prospering and expanding. It emphasizes that continually spreading this prosperity through communicating is the adequate way to handle it. The image, leg, the intercourse of heaven and earth, the image of harmony. The wise ruler models his laws upon the principles of heaven and earth and enforces them for the people's benefit. Wilhelm/Baines, heaven and earth unite, the image of peace. Thus the ruler divides and completes the course of heaven and earth. He furthers and regulates the gifts of heaven and earth, and so aids the people. Blowfold. This hexagram symbolizes heaven and earth in communion. The component trigrams illustrate the kind of close intercourse just alluded to. This is surely the only way of depicting it under the circumstances, for any mingling of their component lines would produce quite different trigrams having no reference to heaven and earth. It is as though a mighty ruler, by careful regulation of affairs, has brought to fruition the way of heaven and earth. In harmony with the sequence of their motions, he gives help to people on every hand. Lu, heaven and earth are unified, symbolizing peace. The ruler reforms and completes the way of heaven and earth. He observes the appropriate methods of heaven and earth to direct the people. Ritsama/Karcher, heaven and earth mingling, pervading. The crown prince uses property to accomplish heaven and earth's Tao. The crown prince uses bracing to mutualize heaven and earth's propriety. The crown prince uses the left to right. The crown prince uses the left to right the commoners. Cleary, when heaven and earth commune, there is tranquility. Thus does the ruler administer the way of heaven and earth and assist the proper balance of heaven and earth, thereby helping the people. Wu, prosperity results from the interaction of heaven and earth. The king uses the wealth of the nation to achieve the ways of heaven and earth and to support their designs, so as to bring the sentiments of the people to the center. Commentary, Confucius/Leg. Harmony shows the union of heaven and earth, and all things consequently united. High and low, superior and inferior are all in accord. The lower trigram is made up of dynamic lines and the upper of magnetic lines. Strength is within, devotion is without. The superior man is inside and increasing. The inferior man is outside and decreasing. Leg. Outside would be the top trigram, I believe, and inside is the bottom one. Bottom one's increasing, top one's decreasing. I think that's what it's saying. And if it's the inferior man decreasing, it's like the higher self is increasing within you and your ego is decreasing. Leg. There could be balance, but obviously if it's imbalanced to begin with, greater balance would err on the side of increasing the higher self, or, Tao. Leg. The judgment refers to the structure of the hexagram with the 3 dynamic lines below and the 3 magnetic lines above. The former are the great, active and vigorous. The latter are the inferior, passive and yielding. In many editions of the I Ching, beneath the hexagram of harmony, there appears hexagram number 54, propriety, which becomes harmony if the 3rd and 4th lines exchange places. A situation in which the motive forces are represented by 3 dynamic and the opposing by 3 magnetic lines must be progressive and successful. Harmony is called the hexagram of the 1st month of the natural spring, when for 6 months the forces of growth are in ascendance. Canon McClatchy translates, the image means that heaven and earth have now conjugal intercourse with each other, and the upper and lower classes unite together. Chuang Tzu says on the image that a ruler should frame his laws to operate like the seasons, so that the people exist within the structure of a natural rather than an arbitrary order. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. Harmony depicts the waning of egotistical illusions and the waxing of true potential. The superior man or person, or chief son, or sage, allows his inner virtue to rule the psyche. Without changing lines, harmony suggests a fruitful union of opposites and consequent state of balance in the matter at hand. Wilhelm translates the opening phrase of the Confucian commentary as heaven and earth unite. Blofeld renders it, the celestial and terrestrial forces have intercourse and all things are in communion with one another. Legge has already called attention to McClatchy's version of heaven and earth have now conjugal intercourse with each other. This image is one of the most universal symbols produced by the human psyche, the sexual union of spirit and matter, heaven and earth. This is the Hieros Gamos, or holy marriage of alchemy, the union of Shiva and Shakti in Hinduism, the conjoined male and female deities in Tantric Buddhism, the syzygies of Gnosticism, and the union of heaven and earth in the Kabbalah. A quote from M. Kaltenmark in Lao Tzu and Taoism. The notions of the couple and the sacred marriage held a very important place in ancient Chinese religious thinking. Every sacred power was twofold, male and female. But since only one half of the sacred couple was generally enclosed in any one sanctuary, the ritual was directed at reconstituting the whole. The complete being is male and female. Since most men neglect or repress their feminine nature, they are out of balance. Their male aggressiveness comes to the fore, and their whole vitality suffers. There can be no true holiness without a prior revitalization of femininity. Psychologically, the condition pictured by this hexagram is a metaphor for a high state of integration within the psyche. Here it is described in alchemical and Jungian terminology. The hermetic vessel is oneself. In it, the many pieces of psychic stuff scattered throughout one's world must be collected and fused into one, so making a new creation. In it must occur the union of the opposites called by the alchemists the conjunctio or marriage. This union, in psychological terms, corresponds to man with his feminine soul, the anima, or to a woman with her masculine counterpart, the animus. The union in each case constituting the inner marriage, the hieros gamos by which the individual must become whole. To receive this hexagram does not necessarily mean that one has attained such a high integration, but it might indicate a step in that direction. The ultimate hieros gamos only occurs after all of the scattered and mismatched forces within the psyche have been brought together in correct alignment. In I Ching terms, when all of the lines are in their proper places with proper correlates as imaged in hexagram number 63, completion. Until this final union, there are innumerable lesser conjunctions which must first take place, a fact recognized in Tantric Yoga. A quote from Mircea Eliade in Myths, Rites, and Symbols. The final goal of the Tantricist is to reunite the two contrary principles, Shiva and Shakti, in his own body. When Shakti, who sleeps in the shape of a serpent at the base of his body, is awoken by certain yogic techniques, she moves through a medial channel by way of the chakras up to the top of the skull, where Shiva dwells, and unites with him. The union of the divine pair within his own body transforms the yogin into a kind of androgyny. But it must be stressed that androgenization is only one aspect of a total process, that of the reunion of the opposites. Actually, Tantric literature speaks of a great number of opposing pairs that have to be reunited. The establishment of the kingdom of heaven on earth is yet another metaphor for this process of psychic unification. Here is the Kabbalistic version, a quote from the Zohar. It is by the establishment of the celestial and the terrestrial, or of heaven upon earth, that the house of the king, humanity, will become united, and the king will rejoice thereat. For then the two kingdoms will become one, and then the new and living way will become open to those who make themselves susceptible and receptive of the higher and diviner life. When these two worlds become united and blended together, they are symbolized by the union of the male and female, the one being the complement of the other. Suggestions for meditation. Legge points out that many editions of the I Ching associate hexagram number 54, propriety, with this figure. What do the changing third and fourth lines of propriety imply about the role of the ego in the work? The traditional name for propriety is the marrying maiden. How does that relate to the concept of the holy marriage and harmony? Compare the judgments and images of the two hexagrams and the role of the superior man in each. Note also the lesson implied when lines 2 and 5 in harmony unite to make hexagram number 63, completion. And then 24, back to our changing lines to read changing line 2 and 3. They each have their own general context. They put a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They are the most focus point of the reading and take precedence over all other elements. Changing line 2 has the general context of the heart's perception, the emotional center, where you make and feel connections. And changing line 3, general context, an emerging identity, facing a transition with fear or desire, resolution or indecision. So, in hexagram 24, changing line 2, the second line, magnetic, shows the admirable return of its subject. There will be good fortune. Wilhelm/Baines, quiet return, good fortune. Blowfold, a return blessed by heaven, good fortune. Lu, quiet return, good fortune. It benefits one to rely on an influential person. Wu, he who admires return will find auspiciousness. Commentary. Confucius/Legge, this is due to her condescension to the virtuous subject of the line below. Wilhelm/Baines, the good fortune of a quiet return depends on subordination to a good man. Blowfold, this good fortune results from our treating others with loving kindness. Ritzema/Karcher, using humanity below indeed. Cleary too, comes through humble benevolence. Wu, this is due to his submission to the one having the love for mankind. Legge, line 2 is in its proper place and central, but it is magnetic. This is more than compensated for by its adherence to line 1, the fifth line not being a proper correlate. Hence her return is called excellent or admirable. The virtuous subject of the first line is in line 2 called Zen, the benevolent or loving. It is the only case in all the symbolism of the I Ching where we find that term used as an adjective. It is emphatic here for humanity, man in his ideal state. Notes and paraphrases. Su, the man makes an admirable comeback through an act of self-mastery. This is made easier by the example of a good man. Wing, it is much easier to do the right thing when you are in good company. Following good examples will lead you to success. Editor, the meaning of the line is derived from its allegiance to line number 1. This can be interpreted as subordination to a high ideal or principle of integration. If we consider Legge's commentary on the concept of zenas, love in the highest sense of unity/union, then the line suggests a return to a principle of love, unity, or even the supreme ultimate itself. A quote from F. Hartman, Paracelsus, Life and Prophecies. The world is moving in spirals, and our greatest modern philosophers are nearing a place in their mental orbit where they come again into conjunction with minds like Pythagoras and Plato. James Dekorne breaks line 2 down into two possible succinct definitions. A, suggests the tranquil subordination of ego to a higher principle. And line B, renounce your claim to action and return to the work, capital work. Line 3, now we're on to line 3. Let's ring that one out. Come on, baby. The third line, magnetic, shows one who has made repeated returns. The position is perilous, but there will be no error. Wilhelm/Baines, repeated return, danger, no blame. Blowfold, frequent returns, trouble but no error. Lou, frequent returns, danger, no blame. Ritzema/Karcher, imminent returning, adversity without fault. Let's go to Wu. Wu, he who regains return after repeatedly losing it will be in a perilous position, but blameless. The person seems to be unable to stay on course, but manages to correct his error every time as soon as he knows it. A combination of vacillation and endeavor to be right earns him a passing grade. Commentary. Confucius/Leg. Notwithstanding her many returns, there will be no error because she aims after righteousness. Wilhelm/Baines. The danger of repeated return is, in its essential meaning, deliverance from blame. Blowfold. This means that we are in no way to blame for the trouble. Ritzema/Karcher. Righteous, without fault indeed. Cleary. 2. The diligence of repeated return is faultless if right. Wu. The peril of repeatedly losing return is in principle blameless. The peril of repeatedly losing return is in principle blameless. Leg. Line 3 is magnetic in the dynamic place at the top of the trigram of movement. Any evil issue may be prevented by caution and awareness of danger. Notes and paraphrases. Su. The man is changeable, departing time after time from the right course because of his uncontrolled desire for apparent advantages and returning to it for seemingly better solutions. No great blame will be attached to him, but there is still some danger. Wing. This position indicates the type of person who is constantly vacillating because of the imagined advantages of other paths. This kind of experimentation could be dangerous, but is mostly an annoyance to all concerned. It is indicated that the situation will improve nevertheless. Editor. Implicit here is the idea that there are many lessons to be learned and reinforced when one undertakes the work. And uncertainty and vacillation are to be expected. Often we expect more of ourselves than we are capable of performing. One doesn't learn how to be a mountain climber by immediately attempting to scale Mount Everest. The work is a task of many lifetimes, involving the step-by-step integration of countless disparate complexes within the psyche. Occasionally we may get off the path, but as long as we remain committed to the work, we must always return, hopefully having learned something from our temporary detour. This is not a justification for a failure of willpower, but is a recognition that such failures exist here in the world of the senses. Blowfold's interpretation of the Confucian commentary can be misleading. The no blame or no error proviso in the original line derives from our recognition that we have gotten off the path and are determined to return to it. Not usually that we are entirely free of culpability. On the other hand, the line can sometimes represent a reoccurring issue in which personal blame is not an obvious factor. One just has to deal with it until it's resolved. For example, a problem which others have not integrated, that they keep pushing on you. In its most negative interpretation, the line images a chronic condition. Quote from E.C. Whitmont in The Symbolic Quest. Those relationships which arouse, beckon to us, or repel us embody the archetypal grand themes which have been brought into actualization more or less adequately in our childhood by our parental encounters. Now they confront us ever and again, making us renew old encounters or making us complete or compensate for that which is still incomplete. James Dekorne breaks down changing line 3 into 4 succinct possible definitions. A, an unresolved situation presents itself again. B, the image suggests a vacillation of willpower. C, you'll have to do it over again until you get it right. And D, a repeated offender. You haven't yet gotten a grip on an old issue. Now, muy rapido, we shall read from the Tao Te Ching by I-ming, wrote in 1796 as a Taoist adept. Thomas Cleary has translated it. Hexagram 24, our primary hexagram. This is very alchemical in nature, this commentary. I like it. 24, return. Return is developmental. Exiting and entering, there is no ill. When a companion comes, there is no fault. Reversing the path, returning in 7 days, it is beneficial to have a place to go. Explanation. Return means coming back. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is earth, obedient, below is thunder, active. When activity obeys the mind, the heavens turn in their course while human affairs proceed successfully. Also, in the body of the hexagram, one yang moves below a group of yins. This is the first return of yang energy. In both senses equally is the path of return, so it is called return. This hexagram represents the return of yang within primordial yin. It follows on the previous hexagram, adornment, which we got last time, as our supporting hexagram. Adornment is being clear-minded and resting in the proper place. 2 times ago, last time was joy. Adornment is being clear-minded and resting in its proper place, thereby to nurture clarity and operate the fire to gather primordial true yang. Gathering true yang is the path of returning yang in the midst of yin, reordering personal affairs by which one can appropriate the creativity of nature and comprehend life and death, so that return is unfailingly developmental. Though the path of return is developmental, nevertheless, people accept the false and neglect the real. Most do not know the return of the real. If you know it, it is near at hand. The mind of Tao appears, the human mentality retreats, and you can exit and enter the midst of yin and yang without being adversely affected by yin and yang. It is necessary to know the timing of return. It is not to be forcibly sought before the proper time, and should not be missed once the time has come. Only then can one find the real. When people are first born, they are all good with no evil. Then when they get mixed up in acquired conditioning, yin injures their yang, and there is loss of original natural reality. But even though it is lost, it is never totally non-existent. There still is a breath of living potential within. This may appear at times, but people do not recognize it even when it does, because they are deceived by personal desires and confused by worldly affairs. To return it, restore it, it is necessary to take advantage of times when this living potential appears and set about quickly gathering it. Only then can it be one's own. If the living potential has not yet appeared and you keep to quietude and empty silence, how can it return? Thus it returns when a companion comes, and only then can one be without fault. The character for companion is written as a conjunction of 2 moons. One is yang and one is yin. When yin culminates, yang is born. There is yang within yin. This is called a companion comes. If yin does not culminate, yang is not born, and the companion does not come. If the companion does not come, yin and yang do not interact. Then where would creative energy come from? Therefore, it is necessary that a companion come for the living potential to appear. The living potential appears with the interaction of yin and yang. Gather it and put it in the furnace of creation, and in a moment, calamity turns into blessing. Punishment turns into reward. Before there was fault because of loss of true yang. Now that true yang is restored, one can be without fault. But though one can be impeccable by restoring this, the way to do it involves work in an orderly fashion, restoring it gradually. One cannot restore it immediately, or even if one does restore it immediately, it cannot be stabilized. It is necessary to first refine oneself and master the mind, waiting for the time to act. Therefore, reversing the path, reality returns in 7 days. Reversing means turning around and operating in reverse, away from progressive conditioning, back to the original integrity of the real mind. 7 days is the number of the yang fire. The energy of harmony, of essence, and feeling in people is the yang fire. This is the real. The restlessness of acquired energy in people is the yin fire. This is the false. The real completes life, the false injures life. Reversing the path means first reversing this false fire so as to return to the real fire.
In 7 days the yang fire arises and the yin fire dies out. Utterly empty and silent, within black there is white. The primordial energy becomes manifest from within nothingness. Gradually gathering and refining it, one can crystallize the restored elixir. This path is not difficult to know, but it is difficult to practice. When you know it, it is most important to practice it. If you know it but do not practice it, that is tantamount to not knowing. Having a place to go and promptly setting about cultivating it, it will surely return gradually from a single yang until 6 yangs are pure and complete. What can compare to the growth and fruition of that return? Hexagram 11, our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Tranquility. 11. The small goes, the great comes. This is auspicious and developmental. Explanation. Tranquility means going through in harmony. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is earth, submissive, and below is heaven, strong. Yang is strong inside, yin is submissive outside. Strength and submission unified, yin and yang correspond. It therefore is called tranquility. This hexagram represents the mixing of yin and yang. It follows on the previous hexagram, nurturance by the small. In nurturance by the small, 1 yin nurtures 5 yangs. Yin energy is in charge and yang energy is not active. Being small in nurturance and unable to be great in nurturance, the activity cannot succeed. The way to successful activity requires that great and small be unharmed, that yin and yang balance each other, yin obeying yang, yang governing yin. Only when yin and yang are harmoniously combined is it possible to accomplish things. Therefore, the way of tranquility is that the small goes and the great comes. It is auspicious and developmental. The small is yin and the great is yang. The small goes means yin submits. The great comes means yang is strong. With yang strong on the inside and yin submissive on the outside, the primordial gradually returns and acquired conditioning gradually melts away. Thereby it is possible to reach the realm of pure yang with no yin. It is a matter, of course, then to be fortunate in action and for activity to develop. However, in the path of bringing about tranquility, there is a firing process. There is a course of work. If advancing and withdrawing are done with the proper timing, and one is strong yet acts docilely, using docility to nurture strength, one can bring about tranquility and preserve it. Understanding essence through understanding life, attaining non-striving through striving, completing the great way. Of this, one can be sure. Let's read our changing lines. Make a million alpha rap lines. Shout out to can I remember your name? 24 here. Return. We will read changing lines 2 and 3, which again have the general context. 2 has the heart's perception. Right? Something like that. Come on, man. 2 has the heart's perception, the emotional center where you make and feel connections. And line 3 has an emerging identity, facing a transition with fear or desire, resolution or indecision. And our changing lines put a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They take precedence over all other elements, and so all that stuff. Return 24, changing line 2. Good return, auspicious. Explanation. When knowledge is limited and one cannot understand how to return to the beginning, but nevertheless one is flexible and receptive in the right way, aspires to equal the wise, sees and associates with superior people imbued with the Tao, borrowing their clear knowledge to break up one's own ignorance, then even one who does not know return will know return, and even one who cannot return will be able to return. This is called good return. This is return in which the weak borrow strength, the flexible borrow firmness. Changing line 3. Repeated return, danger, no fault. Explanation. When return to good is not stable, and you return again and again and lose it again and again, this is called repeated return. Yet if your nature is flexible and your will is firm, and you are single-mindedly intent on return, and you handle yourself in danger, if you can do it once, you can do it 100 times. And if you can do it 100 times, you can do it 1,000 times. Even though you may be ignorant, you will surely gain understanding. And even though you may be weak, you will surely become strong. Even though faulty at first, you can thereby come to be without fault. This is return in which one studies when at a loss and strives diligently to carry it out. There's some commentary in the back. It doesn't include our changing lines, but I'll read those sections as well. So for our primary hexagram 24, return, earth above, thunder below, thunder is in the earth, return. Thus did the kings of yore shut the gates on the winter solstice. Caravans did not travel, the ruler did not inspect the regions. Return means reversion and restoration. Above is earth, below is thunder. There is thunder in the earth. Thunder is something very active. When thunder stirs in the earth, the mechanism of enlivening operates, and myriad things are born. What the ancient kings saw in this was that as everything revives when the positive creative energy operates, so does the living potential return to humans when their positive energy becomes manifest. So they closed the gates on the winter solstice, not allowing caravans to go forth and trade, not allowing the ruler to go out and inspect the regions. This was all to get people to emulate the restoration of heaven and earth, nurturing this point of living potential, not letting it be damaged. What is the living potential? The potential is the natural innocent mind inherent in humans. This is the progenitor of life, the source of yin and yang. Once it falls into temporal conditioning, it becomes covered by temperament and cannot be consistently manifest. When it occasionally does manifest, this is the time of the return of the celestial within the mundane. This time, however, is hard to gain and easy to lose. Most people do not know it and miss it even when it is right there. Because of this, the mundane gradually grows and the celestial gradually wanes. When the celestial is exhausted and mundanity is complete, there is only death. The shutting of the gates on the winter solstice is so that when the positive energy returns, people will nurture it. Caravans not traveling means not allowing involvement with external artificialities to damage inner reality. The ruler not inspecting the regions means preventing keenness in criticizing others, coupled with dullness in cultivating oneself. Once the gates are closed, one is careful and strict. Inwardly, thoughts do not arise. External things do not enter. Thus, the positive energy cannot leak out. Thus it was that the ancient kings established their resolve for the sake of the world and established order to enable the people to live. When superior people who practice the Tao refine themselves and master their minds, illumination arises in inner openness, and the living potential is activated. They should quickly gather it into the furnace of evolution, conscientiously forestall danger, carefully seal it and store it securely, fostering its growth from vagueness to clarity until there is eventually a return of the celestial energy to pure completeness. This is the same idea as the ancient kings shutting the gates on the winter solstice. This time when the positive celestial energy first returns is the passageway of life and death. If you can avail yourself of it, you enter the road of life, but if you lose it, you wind up on the road of death. Shut the gates here means closing the door of death. When the door of death is closed, the door of life opens. Heaven borrows human power. Humans borrow celestial power. When heaven and humanity work together, the elixir of immortality crystallizes in a short time without requiring years of effort. Unfortunately, most people do not seek the personal instruction of a genuine teacher and miss the opportunity that is right before them. Our supporting hexagram 11. We'll read that, which puts our primary hexagram again in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Tranquility. Earth above, heaven below. When heaven and earth commune, there is tranquility. Thus does the ruler administer the way of heaven and earth and assist the proper balance of heaven and earth, thereby helping the people. Tranquility means success. Above is earth, below is heaven. The energy of heaven rises from below. The energy of earth descends from above. So the energies of heaven and earth, the celestial and the mundane, mix together, and myriad things are produced. This is the image of tranquility. What the ruler sees in this is that when heaven and earth, yin and yang, mix together, myriad things are born. And when the celestial and earthly elements and humans commune, everything is at peace. On this basis does the ruler administer the way of heaven and earth and assist the proper balance of heaven and earth. People are born with the energies of yin and yang and the 5 elements. So they have these energies of yin and yang and the 5 elements in their bodies. When these energies are active in the body, they constitute the 5 virtues. The 5 virtues, in essence, have a natural course which does not require forced effort. This is called the path of following nature. The ruler who understands the principle of the natural generation of the 5 elements and causes humanity, justice, courtesy, knowledge, and truthfulness to flow as one energy is administering the natural way of heaven and earth, giving life to humans. The functions of the 5 virtues have their appropriate balance. It will not do to cling to any of them at the expense of the others. This is what is called the teaching of practicing the Tao. The ruler who understands the principle of the mutual overcoming of the 5 elements causes benevolence, justice, courtesy, knowledge, and truthfulness, each to attain its appropriate proportion, assisting the proper balance of heaven and earth as it endows humans. Administering the way, assisting in its balance, is the means whereby to accomplish the will of the world and achieve the work of the world, thus helping the people, causing everyone to take the way of heaven and earth as their way, and to take the balance of heaven and earth for their balance, preserving universal harmony intact, each realizing one's true nature and purpose in life. Who does not have the way of heaven and earth? Who does not have the balance of heaven and earth? The only problem is inability to administer and assist the way of its balance. If one can administer and assist the way and balance of heaven and earth, then it is possible to preserve the primordial complete and to dissolve acquired conditioning. When the primordial is complete and conditioning is dissolved, being is natural and action is appropriate. The 5 elements are one energy. The 5 virtues merge. Nature and life are stabilized. What is more, one shares in the functions of heaven and earth. One shares the eternity of heaven and earth. What can compare to that tranquility? Oops. We will read a randomly card-drawn chapter from the Tao Te Ching. Close things off here. Right then. 20, 29, and then 14. This translation of the Tao Te Ching is by Jia Fu Fang and Jane English. Chapter 20 of the Tao Te Ching. Give up learning and put an end to your troubles. Is there a difference between yes and no? Is there a difference between good and evil? Must I fear what others fear? What nonsense. Other people are contented, enjoying the sacrificial feast of the ox. In spring, some go to the park and climb the terrace, but I alone am drifting, not knowing where I am. Like a newborn babe before it learns to smile, I am alone, without a place to go. Others have more than they need, but I alone have nothing. I am a fool. Oh yes, I am confused. Other men are clear and bright, but I alone am dim and weak. Other men are sharp and clever, but I alone am dull and stupid. Oh, I drift like the waves of the sea, without direction, like the restless wind. Everyone else is busy, but I alone am aimless and depressed. I am different. I am nourished by the Great Mother. 29. Do you think you can take over the universe and improve it? I do not believe it can be done. The universe is sacred. You cannot improve it. If you try to change it, you will ruin it. If you try to hold it, you will lose it. So sometimes things are ahead and sometimes they are behind. Sometimes breathing is hard, sometimes it comes easily. Sometimes there is strength and sometimes weakness. Sometimes one is up and sometimes down. Therefore the sage avoids extremes, excesses, and complacency. And to close everything off, 14. Look, it cannot be seen. It is beyond form. Listen, it cannot be heard. It is beyond sound. Grasp, it cannot be held. It is intangible. These three are indefinable, therefore they are joined in one. From above it is not bright, from below it is not dark. An unbroken thread beyond description. It returns to nothingness, the form of the formless, the image of the imageless. It is called the indefinable and beyond imagination. Stand before it and there is no beginning. Follow it and there is no end. Stay with the ancient Tao. Move with the present. Knowing the ancient beginning is the essence of Tao. Apple is Venus. Rowan staff, the sun and Mercury. Consequently, this is from Patrick, my friend in Ireland, from a green apple tree. So Venus also correlates with the heart chakra, I believe, which is green chakra point. Clear fluorite.
I love you guys. See you on the other side.